everybody, it's Coffee Morning with Carlos Morale, where I talk about a game based upon top secret criteria whilst drinking my morning coffee until my cup is dry. And today we're going to be talking about The Messenger, which is a 2D action indie platform game from Sabotage, published by Devlolver Digital at the very end of August 2018. Growing up, we were so poor I couldn't even afford to say the word games console, let alone own one. It was a tragic time, young Master Morale staring in through the windows at families gathered around playing Mario Brothers and Cuthbert Goes Walkabout before it was back to selling matches on street corners. Actually, no, I was quite fortunate to have had a Sinclair Spectrum to cater for my gaming needs as a kid, but it wasn't until I went to high school that I met someone who had a Nintendo Entertainment System. Ooh. He also had a load of canned water and a fire engine on his driveway, but that's a story for another time. By that point, the NES was a kind of throwback, but that didn't stop me enjoying playing games like Duck Hunt, Contra, and or Probotector, and Metroid for the first time, and thoroughly enjoying them. I also played Ninja Gaiden, or Ninja Gaiden as I thought it was called back then, but I've learned so much better now. Ninja Gaiden was a stupid good 2D action platformer from Tecmo with kick-ass music and a kick-your-ass gameplay. Since that early title, I've always been interested in, and uniformly terrible at, the Gaiden games across a whole slew of platforms. Fast forward a couple of decades, and sadly the Ninja Gaiden series is currently on hiatus after one too many dodgy sequels soured things for the franchise. Gaiden is still fondly remembered, however, and that brings us all the way to 2018 and The Messenger, which we will call a spiritual successor to Ninja Gaiden. In fact, The Messenger is more of an homage to the transitory period between 8 and 16-bit gaming, when our horizons seemed to be expanding exponentially and we stared wide-eyed at the future. The setup is straightforward. You are a ninja. A demon attacks you and your ninja chums. Everything looks bleak, and then a hero appears from the left-hand side of the screen and tells you to deliver a scroll. This involves a lot of going right, jumping, and attacking. And you quickly learn the game's primary gameplay skill, which is a variant of the double jump called the cloud jump, where you can jump again if you hit something with an attack. Get that down and it's off you go. What this boils down to is a two-part game, which is at first an interesting development of 8-bit Gaiden, and then moves into something more akin to a Metroidvania, explore, collect, and expand the world type game. Additionally, The Messenger becomes something of a time-hopping game too, where you'll shift between 8-bit and 16-bit versions of the same world. Well, the same, yet with subtle differences that allow progression in one time period and not the other. Therefore, you'll need to utilise not just the jumping and murdering parts of your brain, but the thinking in 4 dimensions part as well. If all this sounds good, then I have some great news. It is good. In fact, it's rather better than good, with the first half of the game being some of the most fun and fair platform gaming I've played for quite some time. And I want to emphasise the fair part here, because The Messenger is a platform game for fans of the genre, but has a reasonable skill floor that allows those of us who only manage modest skills with platformers to settle in and learn the ropes before it ramps up the difficulty. The controls are tight and responsive, which they need to be, as instant death is ever present and often the consequence for screwing up once you get through the first quarter or so of the game. It's very easy to fall into a bottomless pit. And that's a lot like life. Sadness, depression, the fatigue of being by yourself. To avoid loneliness, the messenger gives you a few friends along the way. Some welcome, like the amusing shopkeeper in a mysterious blue robe who dispenses both information and new abilities. Others are less welcome. When you die, a little red imp character named Quabble shows up to restore your character, munching through some of your time shards, which stand in for money in the game. He also has a little joke at the player's expense. Now, your mileage may vary with this, but I found that being told I suck by some sarcastic little red turd when I was already getting frustrated with a section of the game, a boss fight for example, was a special kind of demotivation. I'm sure some people found these messages on death to be funny, but it was only the quality of the game that kept me coming back and not the opportunity to be insulted. Surprisingly, for a 2D platformer, the story of The Messenger is actually a high point and one that is worth experiencing for yourself. Although the whole thing does lose some pacing after the initial half is completed and the gameplay style shifts somewhat, there are still plenty of challenges and interesting encounters that are a joy to play through. I thoroughly recommend playing The Messenger, and I'm going to give it my highest rating of the year so far. 5 shurikens. Thanks ever so much for watching today's video on The Messenger. I do hope that you have enjoyed it, and if you have, please do not hesitate to leave a like somewhere where you find this video, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.